Hi, Ron LeGrand here. Before we get started with the podcast, I thought you might want to know that I recently recorded a 90-minute online training about how we make so much money today in the terms business. That's on pretty houses in pretty neighborhoods, not the junk houses that we have to go rehab or wholesale. I go through step by step on exactly what I and thousands of my students are doing right now to make the fastest and the easiest money in real estate without using your money or credit. If you're interested in doing just that, go to thementorpodcast.com/free training. See you there.
Welcome to the Mentor Podcast, where the most highly motivated entrepreneurs come to get their weekly dose of financial stability with host Ron LeGrand, as well as other nationally recognized thought leaders who will teach you how to get, grow, and protect your wealth.
Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to the Mentor Podcast. This is Ron LeGrand. And if you are not a member, go ahead and subscribe right now while it's on your mind, thementorpodcast.com. We air every single Wednesday, and if you go ahead and just subscribe, you'll get notified so that we can remind you so you don't forget these podcasts when they come out. They are all archived. Once you get subscribed, you can go on. We've got some really, really good podcasts up there for you to download. Today, I wanted to talk about handling the call because in our industry, which is the terms business, the whole business revolves around generating leads and then following up on those leads by getting the information from the seller first and then making what we call the closing call. The closing call is what I want to discuss today because it is the most important ingredient in the entire terms business. And that's the call where you get on the phone with the seller with the property information sheet in front of you and you ask a few questions, hopefully from my script, to determine whether they're interested or not in terms, and if so, what terms. And that conversation will determine whether you go to the house or not. And then, of course, there's a follow-up script for an appointment if you want to make an appointment. And then there's a script if they say no, they're not interested in terms. We call that the no script. Okay, we have all of those. I believe those scripts are on the Gold Club. They're certainly in all of my training modules, in my terms module, and certainly we covered heavily in the boot camp, of course, the 4-day real estate quick start school. Today, I want to I think I want to spend some time discussing the mistakes people make on this call, because if we can identify those mistakes and work on correcting those mistakes, pretty soon we get pretty darn good at this call and we get a lot more deals with a lot less leads because we can master this call. Now, we start by getting the information on a property information sheet. A property information sheet. In fact, I might even have one here that I'm working on myself. It contains all the information on the property. Now, this is what our virtual assistants will fill out for you if you want them to, if you hire them. They're very inexpensive. Our virtual assistants only cost for 5 hours, it's $105. For 10 hours, it's $200. And then you only get charged by the minute that they are working for you. And one of the biggest things they do is call these sellers. We call about 50,000 people a year for our customers. And this is the sheet that they fill out when they're called. Because without this property information sheet, you don't have a business in the terms business, all right? It starts with collecting the facts on the house. Now, I would prefer you let them collect these things because this is a lot of grunt work. Only about half of the people that they try to contact actually get on the phone with them. People just don't pick up the telephone today. And then we have to call them 3 times, up to 3 times to try to get them to pick up. And then we're done with them. And then it goes back to the student who's sent the lead in to follow up on their own. We teach you how to do that as well. And it starts with a text because when you text somebody, they're going to get the message and they're going to respond. Trying to get them on the phone may or may not. So we turn a lot of those leads, which are for FSBOs, for sale by owners, into property information sheets for our students for extremely minimal cost of the VA service. So every week now, these are every day they're dropped into your inbox in the 2 counties that you choose when you're a Gold Club member. Now, if you're not a Gold Club member, go to ronsgoldclub.com right now and sign up for a measly $59 a month. You can get all access to all the Gold Club. And one of the most important things that we offer you there is free leads for sale by owner leads that are advertised online in the 2 counties you choose. You don't pay extra for them. It's part of the $59 a month fee. I tell you, it's the biggest bargain in real estate. So consistently, you get the name and the phone number and the address and some information on the houses that are for sale by owner in your area. So then you forward them to your virtual assistant, and then they start producing these sheets for you. So that's the beginning of the automation in this business. If you will let other people do the grunt work for you, that only leaves you to make the closing call. And that's what I want to discuss right now. The closing call only takes a couple of minutes. Property information sheets in front of you. You don't have to go through and ask all that information again. All you have to do is take the applicable simple script that I've created, call the seller, ask them a few questions, and wait for the answers. And those answers will determine whether you want to make an appointment. And then, of course, if you want to make an appointment, you go out to the house and hopefully turn it into a contract. And that's as simple as that. So we need leads coming across our desk. Yes, we will generate a bunch of them for you, but I expect you to go out and generate your own as well. I teach you that in both the terms course and in the wholesale or in the quick start real estate school. There's all kinds of ways you can get sellers to call you. Now, sellers calling you are a lot better quality leads than one we're chasing that are advertising their house for sale. And yet we get tons of deals from the ones we drop in your lap every day, even though they're the lowest quality leads. And every time we do a 4-day training, last 4-day training we got 19 deals out of the property information sheets that the students brought to class that week. 19 sellers that said yes to terms. Now, they're not all going to turn into deals. Sometimes the sellers change their mind when you get out to the house or whatever. But, it's just a matter of numbers. We got 19 in just 2 days, actually, with our mentors calling the leads. What if only 2 or 3 of those turn into deals, for crying out loud? I mean, the smallest deal that I'm going to touch is going to get me $20,000 within a few days after I buy the house, or I just don't want to mess with it. And from there, it goes up. So when you think about it, that's a pretty good pay for making a handful of phone calls, even though most of them are not going to be people you want to work with. So let's get that very clear right now. The majority of the people want all cash and they want full price for their house. So what? The majority of the people we couldn't possibly handle anyway. We're always going to handle the minority in any business. I don't care what product or service you sell. You're only going to be dealing with the few people that actually are interested enough to buy or sell with you. That's it. It's always the minority. So we're just trying to weed out the majority very quickly to get down to the minority that we can possibly work with, and then get down to the ones we actually do deals with. My friends, that's the basic principle of business right there. Any business, product or service, matters not what it is. You got to understand that if you're going to be in business. You can't deal with the masses. You're only going to deal with the ones that are pre-screened down. So it starts with a property information sheet, and then that works into the closing call. And then that works into the few that you're going to go visit, which works into the fewer that you're actually going to do business with. But I'm not going to go to anyone's house until I've pre-screened them to the point that where I feel like getting off my butt and going out there and driving and, wherever they're at to go to their house. As I'm taping this, I visited one day before yesterday. Okay. The guy said he wanted terms on the phone. I get out to his house and he said, no, I'm just going to do for cash. House needed about $10,000 worth of work. So I said, well, how much would you take for all cash? He gave me a number, which was higher than I'm willing to pay. I gave him a number, which is what I am willing to pay. And he's thinking about it. And he's offering, I'm telling you, he's taking other offers. So possibility I get that, probably won't. But I've done what I'm going to do because I'm not going to overpay. But the point is, he did change once I got to his house. So in today's world, I want you to be prepared to make an all cash offer as well as a terms offer if you get out there and they change their mind on the terms. And they will do that frequently. I'm just telling you that right now. So you be prepared if they do. But you've got to be trained on how much cash you can offer. Do not be making an all cash offer on a house till you've been to my 4-day boot camp, or you will regret it, I promise you. Or your offer will be so darn low you don't ever have a prayer of getting anything accepted to begin with. You need to know what to offer if you're going to deal with all cash. With terms, there's no risk. I mean, hard to make a mistake in terms that matters. So let's get back to it. So we got the property information sheets, and now we're getting ready to make some closing calls. So here comes 3 leads today from the virtual assistant. So now I'm going to get on the phone. I'm going to make that closing call. what happens in that few minutes that I'm on that telephone will make or break the deal. Now, again, the majority of the deals are broken before you get on the telephone because you're not going to do business with them. No terms, no deal. Repeat that. No terms, no deal, unless you're willing to pay cash and they're willing to discount it down to the point to where you're going to pay cash. And I'm telling you right now, if the house is in gorgeous condition in a nice neighborhood, you're not going to pay cash. Might as well get it out of your head. If the house doesn't need work, you're not going to pay cash because they're not going to discount it down to enough to make sense for you to pay cash, with very few exceptions. Again, I will teach those exceptions, but not today. So when you get on the telephone, how you conduct yourself will determine how many deals you get. It's truly that simple. And most people, first of all, most people are afraid to get on the telephone. I don't know. I guess that's just a fear you're going to have to get over, because if you don't have a terms business. If you're not going to get on the phone, you got to get somebody else on the phone for you, and they're going to carry on the same conversation you will with a little bit of training. But you got to crack that nut. If somebody's not calling those sellers, you're not going to get anywhere in terms business. You have no business. You have no follow up from the leads you get. If you don't follow up on the leads, you're wasting all your time and energy getting the leads. So we got to get the leads, and then we got to make this closing call. I do them all at one time, sit down there. I'm telling you, 10, 15 minutes later, you're through. I don't care how many leads you got. Because here's how the conversation is very simple. If the seller has told the VA that they'd be interested in talking about any kind of terms, that's the script I'm going to pull out. That's the shortest, and I call it the $1 million script. Goes like this. Hey, John, this is Ron calling you back about the house you discussed with my assistant yesterday. You got a minute? Well, yeah. Okay. Well, listen, you indicated that you might be willing for us to make your payment until we pay you off in full if we can agree upon the other terms. Is that correct? If John said yes, or agrees with the fact that he did discuss that he was open to terms, now we go right into the $1 million script. It's 3 questions. 3 questions. Well, John, if we did agree upon the terms, what is the least you could take for your house? Shut up, wait for an answer, no answer. It's almost always less than the one he gave the VA. Next question, is that the least you can, is that the best you can do, John? Usually lower than the one you just got from him. Okay, stop there. Don't want to over negotiate on the phone. Now, second question, we usually buy with nothing down, okay? We usually buy with nothing down, okay? Shut up, wait for an answer. You will be flabbergasted at how many people will simply say, okay, because you asked the question correctly. If they don't say, okay, no, I need a down payment, well, then what's the least you could take down? And then we work them on down. Third question, if they have a mortgage on their property, which the VA has found out before you've even got the information, it's on the lead sheet, your question would be, I assume you're okay if we make your payment until we get you paid off? Yes or no? Okay. If this house is free and clear, you're going to say, well, what is the least you could take per month? Now, with the answer to those 3 questions, you know whether you're going to go to the house or not. If they want a big giant down payment, you're not going unless you can get them to come down on the phone on that down payment. If they want way more than the house is worth, you're not going. It's probably a waste of your time. So the answers will determine whether you're going. Now, the answers don't have to be to your liking entirely for you to go to the house, because you can always negotiate at the house, and usually almost always have negotiating to do at the house to try to tweak the terms. But you will know very quickly. For example, if they got a $300,000 house and they want $50,000 down and they won't come off of that, there's no reason to go to that house. You're wasting your energy. Okay. Now, let's say that no, I don't want terms. Then you pick up the no script. I'm not going to get into that because that's a 1-page script with all the reasons why they might consider changing their mind. But my friend, know this. If they have to have the cash the day they sell the house, there's nothing you can do to change that. You're not going to get terms if they have to have the cash. So that's one of the quick pre-screening questions right up front, because you're not going to make terms where they're not going to take terms. Period. You're not going to change that person's mind if they're absolutely convinced that they have to have cash. So the no script is built to give them all of the reasons why they might reconsider, and then ask them again, would you consider letting me make your payment if we can agree upon the rest of the terms? Then you go back to the big 3 questions, the $1 million script. And now if you get through those 3 questions and they're to your liking, you make an appointment to go to the house. And then you read my appointment script, because it's a very important script that you read, or you're going to waste a lot of time. Because on it, the questions are you the only owner of the house? I asked that same question the other day. Unfortunately, he was divorced and he was the only owner of the house. Okay. And then I asked, if I come out to the house and we can agree upon the terms, are you ready to sell your house today? And I got out to the house, and then he decided he didn't want terms and he wasn't ready to sell his house today. So he lied to me. Okay. However, if he would have said, no, I'm not really ready to sell, I'm just shopping, I'd have said, well, let me know when you're through shopping, because I just don't have time to go out to houses that I can't buy. And I want to know that I could buy yours if we can agree upon the terms. So I'm telling you right now, visited a lot of houses, wasted a lot of time before I figured out it's easier just to ask the questions you want the answers to before you leave your desk. All right, so let's get to the call. Here's some of the mistakes people make when they're on this call. Number one, they talk too much. Talk too much is a very common mistake. And the only way, here I'm going to tell you right up front, you should be practicing some of these calls with someone you know, preferably even on the phone, so it doesn't matter where they're at. But you got to record these calls while you're practicing. You got the property information sheets in front of you. You got my script in front of you. You call and you practice and you record it. You've got to record it or you're wasting your time. If you don't record it, you're not going to be able to play it back. If you can't play it back, you cannot pick up your mistakes. You cannot hear your mistakes while you're talking. Listen to the O guy. Record them, and then play them back. Well, now when you play them back, you're going to need a barf bag right beside you, because you're not going to believe how crappy you did on that telephone. And my friend, just know this, you suck. Okay. You suck at those calls. I know you don't think you suck. Trust me, you suck. When you make those calls and play them back, you'll see how bad you suck. And you'll see why you're not getting deals. So you got to fix this call, or you're not going to get these deals, because you're killing your own deals by what comes out of your mouth. All right. And if I pissed you off, get over it. I'm trying to help you. And I'm telling you right now, I do this for a living, and I know the mistakes people make. You talk too much, you'll know you talk too much very quickly. And in fact, if you're getting off the script, you're talking too much. So, or you're talking too fast. You're talking too fast. In fact, if you're talking too much, you're probably talking too fast. And the only way you're going to fix it is first recognize that you're doing it, and then put a sign in front of you, slow down or shut up, because you've got to constantly be looking at these signs to correct yourselves. So when you play back your recording and you see what you're doing wrong, now do it again and fix what you're doing wrong, consciously working on the mistakes you're making. If you will do this, I promise you, do this about 20 times, not once, not twice, about 20 times, practicing before you ever talk to a live seller, and you'll hear your mistakes. And they are, you talk too much, or you talk too fast, or you're begging. And there's the big one. You're begging. You don't know you're begging. You don't think you're begging. You've never felt like you're begging. Play it back and watch yourself beg. If you talk too fast, you're begging. You talk too much, you're begging. Or it's just in the tone of your voice, you're begging, and you can hear it. You should always be on the offensive, never on the defensive. You don't have anything to defend yourself against. You've not done anything wrong. The person you're calling has advertised their houses for sale. They want somebody to call them. They've asked for this call. You're not interrupting them. You're not an unwanted pest. You're a welcome guest. So you're calling them to get the information. They're not going to sell their house without talking to a human being. Remember, these are FSBOs now. These are not realtors. That means the seller has got to talk to the buyer. You're the buyer. Don't be ashamed that you call. Don't be ashamed that you buy real estate. This is what you do for a living. Be proud of it. And that should come through when you're talking on the phone. So you can't beg, and you'll hear yourself begging. I promise you will. It'll be in the tone of your voice until you take control of that conversation and stay on the offense and get away from the defense. And it's a common thing. Okay, I'm not mad at you for it, because I'm telling you, everybody does it. Everybody does it. Even the most sophisticated salespeople that I train think they're going to be a hero on the telephone. But what they don't understand is they got to change the script, and they got to change the tone of voice. They might have spent their life talking to people. That doesn't mean they were doing it correctly. And even if they were, they have to adapt to this product and to these scripts. And the key is don't beg and don't teach, don't preach. The more you talk, the less chance you got of getting that deal done. Shut up. Shut up. Ask the questions. And here's the big one. Ask questions. Don't preach and teach. Don't go into seminar mode. Ask questions, wait for the answers, and then answer their questions with questions. Wouldn't you agree? Does that make sense? Is that fair? Okay. Aren't all of those questions? You got to remember, ask questions, write it down, put it in front of you. Answer questions with questions. Write it down, put it in front of you. Now it's up to them to come up with the answers. Do you realize you're allowing them to talk themselves into selling you the house by answering your questions? Now the onus is upon them is to keep answering them until they run out of questions, and they'll run out of questions real fast when they have to answer your questions. All right, another big one is don't interrupt people. Bad habit, interrupting. People in the middle of a sentence and you stop and you interrupt. Man, nothing irritates me more than somebody constantly interrupting me while I'm trying to talk. Shut up and let me finish my sentence before you break in. Look, you know you have that habit. You may not know you have that habit until you play this recording back, but I promise you, if you got it, you'll see it right away. You interrupt. And when you interrupt people, they lose their focus, and frankly, they just don't want to talk to you anymore. Let them finish their sentence. Then you come back with a question that they have to answer. And you'll also find out if you got the ums and the ahs and the you-knows and the whatever and the rights. Okay, all of those bad habits that we pick up while we're conversing with people. Now, friends, what I'm teaching you right now goes way beyond buying houses. It's the art of conversation. It's the art of communication. Talk less, listen more, and fix these things that you're doing wrong. And you are definitely doing some of these things wrong. I don't care who you are. Okay. Fix them. They'll become part of your life going forward. They'll become a habit, and you will get rid of those habits. But I'm telling you, from time to time, you should still record some of your calls, because those habits seem to creep back sometimes, and we forget and we don't realize they've crept back. So if you worked on getting these habits out of your way, then I'm telling you, you're going to be a whole lot better communicator. I don't care if you're on the phone with somebody, if you're face-to-face with somebody. This includes your children and all of your relatives. You're going to be a whole lot better negotiator. Remember, ask questions, talk less, and listen more, and don't beg, and don't talk too fast, and don't go into the seminar mode. All right. I think that pretty much covers the subject. There are some other things that people do wrong. For example, some people just speak too slowly. Man, it's all I can do to listen. Speed up, speed up. Some people just speak too softly, or I can hardly hear them. And then you have the folks who have the accent, the foreign accent that, gosh, I don't even know what they're saying. And if you're not one of them, you have most certainly talked to somebody like that very recently. And to be honest with you, if your relatives don't even know what you're saying, you're trying to say in English, for crying out loud, you're not the person who needs to be on the phone with that seller. Because if that seller can't understand what you're saying, they're not going to do business with you. So you're going to have to replace yourself. You're going to have to replace yourself. And by the way, it might not be a bad idea for all of you watching right now to be thinking about replacing yourself on this phone. I've done it a long time ago. Okay, I don't make these closing calls. If you can be trained to make these closing calls, which is not that difficult. In fact, if you can just take this and play it back to somebody you want to put on the phone, and then let them practice at it, probably all the training they're going to need, other than why they're calling and what the questions are, what looks like a good deal and what doesn't look like a good deal. And lower no down payment is an automatic trip to the house to me. It's an automatic trip to the house, because the rest of it, and if they want too much per month or they want too much, that can all be negotiated. But the fact they're willing to do lower no down payment is the biggest hurdle. So I'm going to the house. If you come to our 4-day live event, you're going to see that we do a lot of nothing down deals. In fact, well over half the deals that we do for the students who bring leads are nothing down, simply because my team knows how to ask that question. We usually buy with nothing down, okay? And of course, if you're doing that in person, you don't smile while you're saying it, okay? So these questions have got to be asked right, in the right tone of voice, without all of these things that we just discussed. And then the ones that you're going to do business with will creep through. Now, that doesn't mean you don't carry on any kind of a rapport building conversation, but it does mean you want to keep that to a very minimum, and usually only when they give you an opening to talk about something. For example, you hear a dog barking and, oh, you got a dog. What kind of dog is that? It's a golden retriever. Well, I've got a golden retriever. Okay. But don't let it get carried beyond that. But a little rapport doesn't hurt anything. Honestly, I want to get to the point as fast as I can, but I don't want to rush it. And I try hard not to make any of these mistakes. And you hear me on a conversation with any kind of a seller of anything or a buyer, you'll understand that I control the conversation without being rude, without being mean, without being condescending. Condescending is another one you want to watch out for. And by the way, let me add another one to the list. If you're young and you're talking to somebody of age like me, an old codger, okay, you got to be very careful. Don't ever call me buddy. You call me buddy, I'm going to smack you right upside the head. I don't want no young person calling me buddy. That is absolutely rude to me. I'm not your buddy. I'm 3 times your age, for crying out loud. Be aware that you're talking to somebody that's way older to you. You need respect. It's sir. It's ma'am. It's not buddy or anything like that. Because the words that could come out of your mouth are going to be determined whether they want that to feel comfortable doing business with you or not. And again, the minute you start teaching, you start being too smart for them, and that's going to turn them all off. And also make sure you just keep it as simple as you can. That's why if you follow my scripts, you'll keep it simple. Because if you're talking to a senior and you start getting into some mumbo jumbo and all the technology and all that crap, you're going to lose them in a heartbeat, and they're just not going to want to do business with you. Simple, simple, simple. Answer questions very shortly with short answers. You know, what do you mean lease option? I means that I lease your house with an option to buy, and all the responsibility of it is mine until I get you cashed out. Seminar over, and only if you're asked. Well, what are you going to do with the house when you buy it? Well, I'm going to rent it or I'm going to sell it. I haven't decided yet. Seminar over. We're not going to go into this big, long diatribe of how we're going to put a lease option tenant buyer in there and help them get qualified and blah, 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 blah. No. So the answer to all of their objections are right in my manuals. They're not difficult, and the objections are always the same. I haven't heard a new one in years and years and years. So there's only a handful of them. So when you can learn to handle their questions with questions, if possible, if necessary, you'll find that they'll soon run out of questions. Okay, and that's really what they have is questions more than objections. So anyway, I want you to practice making these calls, do what I asked, follow my guideline, and I promise you by the time you practice this 20 times, you're going to be a whole lot better on the telephone. And if that's the case, let me know, and let me know that this podcast actually helped you out. Ron LeGrand signing off. And if you want to learn the terms business, go to ronlegrand.com/terms. Ron LeGrand, that's LeGrand. Okay, not LA. There's no E on the end of it. ronlegrand.com/terms. And you'll go to an hour and 15-minute training, I think, on how we make the most money in real estate today by buying beautiful houses in beautiful neighborhoods and creating multiple streams of income from one house, money now, money monthly, money later, and creating the residual income that comes in every month without you doing the work. And pretty soon it'll get you out of a job and make you financially independent just on that monthly cash flow. So that's all there for you. Go through and it's free. ronlegrand.com/terms. All right. Hope that helps. See you soon.
That's all for this edition of the Mentor Podcast. To connect with Ron and learn how you can attain financial freedom, as well as up-to-date strategies to grow and protect your wealth based on today's discussion, go to www.connectwiththementor.com.